Manare Tuhu Mama.
Tagore, of course, was my first love in terms of poetry. Being able to put himself in the shoes of a housewife and write about her travails.
What I would would have liked earlier on in my life was to become a poet. But I was not very good at writing poetry. So I decided that I would rather do something else.
I went to Glasgow in my youth and studied naval architecture for 2 years. And then I decided that I would not pursue that because after qualifying I won't have any job back in my home. So I decided to change to accounting. That was also a time that I became very interested in European literature, English literature, even architecture. So I became quite a European aesthete, you can call me. When I was abroad, I lost my mother in 1957. So that was also one of the reasons why I didn't come home very often. My mother's loss was a great loss to me. She was a person of great kindness and so on. I still think of her and how young she was when she died. She was 44. But then in 1965 I came and then I liked what I saw. And in 1968 I came back for good. I was thinking that this is a night which is going to be the last night for many people. Deaths at that night was about 500,000. There's no point in living in a kind of life that you are completely insulated from other people's lives. The importance of having a good life, doing work in a multinational organization seemed quite immaterial to me at that point. So that sort of changed my whole attitude to life. That was the start of the feeling. The uprising was man-made. The Pakistan army is sort of cracking down on people of Bangladesh. They came to our house too. They lined us up a bit. The chairman of Shell Oil Company wanted me to work as liaison officer between the oil companies and the army headquarters, which is, murdering our people. So I'd like to tender my resignation and protest against it. And I'd be able to contribute more for the liberation war from London than joining the Mukti Bahini. We thought maybe that the struggle will go on for a long period of time. I have to basically finance myself for the next few years, so I couldn't really afford to keep the house. When Bangladesh became liberated very quickly, all the money was there for me to start Brac. I saw the distress of people having to leave their homes and go to India to live in a camp. And that gave me an impression that after Bangladesh became independent, all these people, 10 million people, will come back home. And they will find in their homes there's nothing there to start with. I recruited a lot of young people who were in the liberation movement. So I was like their teacher. So we were learning together. We decided to go to every household in Bangladesh to teach women how to make oral rehydration fluid at home to cut down diarrheal mortality in the house. So once we have gone to every house in Bangladesh, the country is your backyard. Most people think that a kind of a rebirth, because I was a very different kind of person. I was very well dressed as a young man in London. They used to call me the Lord Camden. So most people didn't think that the kind of life I later on led, going into villages, working with poorest people, they didn't think that Abed is that kind of person at all. Although I don't see a great deal of change in the sense that I still like to dress up good clothes and things like that. I still like to listen to good music and so on. In my mind, the most important things is what I do. My wife was also involved in work. So it was a very wonderful opportunity for Brac to grow in leadership, which is provided by two people, not only me, but also my wife. She was a very impressive figure. We were both going to Harvard as visiting scholar. She was like a mother figure in Brac.
She used to come to Maniganj quite a bit, and then she used to work with these rural artisans. And when she died, we decided to develop a foundation in her name called Abed Foundation, and which provides employment opportunities for poor artisans in rural Bangladesh. I was devastated by the loss of my wife, but then gradually over time, I got into Brac again. Giving attention to women and girls is very important as to how to bring about change in women's lives so that they can produce children without having to die for it. When I think about Bangladesh, I think about everybody. Not everybody is enjoying Rabindranath, not everybody is enjoying the great literature and the great culture that Bangladesh has. But I think everybody has got the right to have this experience. So if you say that Brac has helped people in poverty alleviation, Brac hasn't done much other than healthcare or finance, loans and given, things like that. It's the poor people who have worked very hard to get themselves out of poverty. It was in 2001 when the head of Apple, Steve Jobs, I went to have dinner with him, and Steve asked me, why did it take Brac 30 years to come out of Bangladesh? So I said, Steve, I never thought of going anywhere else. I just wanted to work in Bangladesh. It's only when I found that in Afghanistan, suddenly 3 million Afghans were going back to their homeland. I saw that many of the things that we do, what we do in Bangladesh, microfinance, healthcare, education, Shastro Shevikas and things like that, everything works there in Afghanistan too. It gave us the self-confidence that many of the things that we do in Bangladesh are probably good for other countries too. I consider myself as a global citizen and I'm ready to help in any country which needs Brac. I don't have any retirement plan, but I have semi-retired in the sense that I come to office about 10 o'clock. I used to come at 8 in the old times. And I used to go home at 7. I go home at 7, but then I take rest in the afternoon. I don't seek recognition for my work. Recognition is something that pleases me because it pleases my organization. Our staff feels happy that Brac's work is recognized. I'm interested in the work itself and the kind of benefit poor people derive from it. I've lived a full life and I'm happy that my life has not been wasted. My legacy is, of course, Brac, but Brac needs to go on being relevant to the lives of the people. Human life is for a short period on Earth, and I would like that short period that each of us have to be as happy and as productive and as meaningful as possible.